Takuma, a pathetic coward and a loser, has developed a phobia of humans because of his tragic childhood. The abnormally tall, studious boy dreams of an academic life, which is constantly ruined by the people around him. One day, he returns home to discover 9 waifus of smexy-looking beauties called Valkyries. Despite his worst fears, Takuma is forced to make love with all of them in order to help them level up and save the world from horrifying demons. The anime begins inside a classroom, where Natsuki is surrounded by her virgin classmates simping for her. They think she's going to win the upcoming beauty contest. Contending her is Itsuyo, the black-haired beauty, and the student council president. Yamada is living out his mommy king thinking about her. There is also Matsumi, doll-like Hello Kitty girl that you would normally want to avoid. Natsuki explains that she doesn't have an interest in winning the competition. But her friend is quick to jump on her cushions, which are Natsuki's masterpieces. Suddenly, a demonic Akuma turns up to the scene. It's actually a guy called Takuma who has that NBA physique. Being so tall, he scares his classmates shitless. Yamada is so scared of this guy that he jumps out the window. The class teacher is no exception to the rule, as he is also afraid of the unsettling and towering student. Takuma carries that big dick energy, unfortunately, to the point the ground literally shakes upon his every step. When he goes away, his classmates suspect him of the recent Akuma monster, who is popular for causing many deaths. Takuma walks in the hallway keeping to himself, but instead he looks like a level 200 zombie to his classmates. The student council president Itsuyo arrives to the scene. While her secretary is worried for Takuma causing trouble for their festival, Itsuyo tells him that he should grow some balls and do their best. The soy boy nerd is charmed by her beauty and is convinced to vote for her in the beauty competition. Outside, Takuma is sitting on the bench trying to chase those grades. Unfortunately, everyone thinks that he's an Akuma because of his appearance. Takuma thinks that he is just an ordinary boy, except for his intimidating, or should I say, Jeffrey Dahmer's aura, which complicates his life. Takuma's terrible encounters with other people led to him being antisocial and developing a phobia of humans, much like the average brain-rot 16-year-old scrolling Instagram reels. He sees Matsumi's interview about the cultural festival on TV. Takuma believes that he doesn't need any friends. The only thing he wants is perfect grades. Takuma's menacing aura scares the living crap out of 2 people who go as far as to dial 911 on his ass. Takuma returns to the one peaceful place that he has known all his life, thinking that no one is going to bother him. But when he opens the door, he discovers 3 naked baddies that have invaded his home. Natsuki bashes his face and calls him a pervert. Itsuyo is a horn dove who shoves his arm between her round personalities. She begs him to call her by name while Natsuki scolds her sister because jealousy is a disease. Takuma tries to escape but accidentally bumps into Matsumi's thunder thighs of doom. He meets Natsuki's coin slot when Matsumi shoves him away. Long story short, Takuma has a rough time. Using Usain Bolt's speed, he runs past 2 more sisters because of his fear of humans. Takuma is trying to recover from the traumatic experience that he just went through. He wants to call the police on the waifus. Takuma is startled when he finds Futaba and Karuri in his room. They apologize for intrusively barging inside his room. Takuma does a Goku and gives up, allowing them to stay. Takuma can't comprehend why these chicks are repelled by his SSS class ugliness. Takuma shares dinner with his newly acquired waifus. He wants them to leave with all his soul because of his phobia of humans, but since he's a coward, he doesn't say anything. Takuma is worried about his entrance exams because he can't focus and 9 distractions are circling him. He sees Natsuki and literally freezes into one place like the virgin that he is. Futaba teases him, wondering if he likes Natsuki. Takuma punches a hole in the wall in denial. Futaba manages to fix Natsuki and Takuma in a joint study session. Takuma is worried because he's afraid of Natsuki. He just wants his peace back. Natsuki puts on her glasses because this clown believes they're necessary for studying. Natsuki cutely asks if Takuma would prefer studying alone. Takuma is a real one and not a simp, so he easily tells her to leave. The Sunder blonde gets angry at his response. Meanwhile, Itsuyo is annoyed that Natsuki is the one stealing the attention. This is because they had already discussed prioritizing increasing Natsuki's power levels. Itsuyo isn't worried about Takuma's abilities as a man since their father approved of him. Returning to the study session, Takuma is distracted by the blonde girl sitting in his room. His anxiety takes over him as he drops the eraser, which ends up landing right between Natsuki's legs. Takuma questions his life's luck and tries to reach out for it. Natsuki spots him under the table and punches the daylights out of this man. Natsuki is concerned about Takuma's motivations to study. Takuma explains that he promised his deceased mother he would study his hardest and become a respectable person. Later, Futaba tasks them to go outside to buy toilet paper. Takuma is forced to hold hands with Natsuki during shopping for God knows whatever reason. A nearby transmission issues a warning about the recent Akuma incidents, advising people to avoid going out at night. Natsuki reminds Takuma that he's the culprit everyone suspects for the Akuma incidents. She questions why he refuses to clear the allegations or reclaim his name. Takuma answers, believing that it would be pointless because he's got the body of a serial killer and the expressions of one as well. He thinks that he only causes problems and won't persuade people. An irritated Natsuki gives him a glare. Natsuki remembers when Takuma actually saved her from the Akuma in the same location. Suddenly, they're attacked by the gigantic Akuma monster. The monster wreaks havoc and suddenly disappears. This is because they have successfully deployed a barrier. The rest of the girls are worried for Natsuki since her strength is lacking in defeating such a strong opponent. Takuma and Natsuki face the wrath of the demon. Natsuki is shocked that a high-level demon was summoned to this location. Natsuki and Takuma escape to find shelter. Unfortunately, the monster strikes them down. When the dust settles, it's Takuma who stands before Natsuki as he saves her life at the cost of his own injuries. Takuma is convinced that his life only gets worse with other people. He doesn't even remember his body jumping in to save Natsuki. The blonde waifu thinks that she's found her daddy and immediately gets down into the naughty business. She allows Takuma to feel her balloons while there is a literal monster waiting to attack them. They share their first kiss and the Valkyrie system accepts it as a mission completion. Natsuki receives an OP power-up and boasts her might as a Valkyrie. It is finally explained that Valkyries are actually goddesses of Norse mythology who get stronger as they receive more love. Natsuki, with her awakened abilities, decimates the Akuma through the power of love. The rest of the Valkyries are impressed. Futaba even calls the eldest sister Ichika to come join them. However, Ichika thinks of Takumi as a weak-ass punk with nothing going for him. She fails to recognize him and refuses to join her sisters. In the end, Natsuki faints after the battle. In a flashback, Takuma remembers Odin, the ruler of the gods of Asgard, who told him that their world was going to be destroyed. Odin blessed him with 9 secret weapons, all of which happened to be his daughters. Odin tasked him to become their lover and to pipe them until they became strong enough to protect the world. Yamada and his homies are simping for the Sawtone baddies. That is until they see the monster that they call Takuma as he is walking his way to the school. The girls check their grades on the school board. Itsuyo scored first with a perfect score in all subjects, shocking Natsuki and Matsumi. They try to look for Takuma's score since he's a studious person. It is revealed that the Takuma scored the lowest in the entire grade. Takuma couldn't focus on his studies because he was distracted by the tantrums of the girls. Takuma knew the answers to the test but couldn't focus on the people around him. Takuma runs away, causing Yamada to jump out of the window. Natsuki feels sad because she stumbled into his room last night and saw how hard he was working. Natsuki knows that Takuma's efforts aren't appreciated. Takuma is scared shitless and wonders if he's going to be expelled for his pathetic grade. Suddenly, he finds himself chained in an empty classroom. Itsuyo comes out of the shadows and explains that while Valkyries and humans are equal in their base forms, she has the ability to cast low-level magic. Itsuyo, being the lustful bitch-ass she is, wants this man's babies already. She goes full BDSM on him and claims that Takuma will one day become the hero who saves their world. She leans in for a kiss and internalizes that she doesn't really care about the man in front of him. In fact, Itsuyo is what you call a daddy's girl since she's the type to do everything to earn her father's respect. Itsuyo wants to make love with the man her father chose for them, becoming the strongest Valkyrie, all in the hopes of getting a head pat from Papa Odin. Remembering her actual daddy, she forgets about the daddy she's got chained in front of him. Itsuyo tries a number of things to increase her level. She feeds him food, but it's so disgusting that Takuma throws up on the girl's face. The Valkyrie tries to hug him and even make eye contact, but Shy Boy 88 is unable to focus and has a stiff body. Despite her best efforts, all of the Val X love missions fail, and she is unable to level up. Takuma escapes from her chains and runs like Martin Luther King just abolished slavery. In the next scene, the baddies are all changing. Itsuyo is annoyed that she couldn't convince Takuma even with her sexy body. She wonders if Takuma doesn't like to be tied up. Natsuki comments that she is surprised to find Itsuyo in such a busy state. This is because she remembers Itsuyo as a crybaby in her childhood. Itsuyo runs off to the rooftop, refusing to lose heart. There, she is surprised to find Takuma hovering in the air. Itsuyo is struck in disbelief because the Akuma aren't supposed to invade at such a rate so soon. Takuma and the others are summoned to fend off the demon. They cast a barrier, which buys them some time to strategize. Itsuyo states that Natsuki's blade is unfit for this battle as she wouldn't be able to defeat the monster. Itsuyo wants her time to shine and get a chance to level up. Natsuki agrees and decides to bait the monster, allowing Itsuyo the time needed to level up. Natsuki kisses Takuma and instantly evolves to a level 22 Super Saiyan to fight the threat.
What?
Matsuma also wants to help, but Itsuyo steals Takuma for herself and runs off. Natsuki fends off the demon with her blades, but unfortunately, this type of Akuma is immune to physical attacks and requires a different form of magic to be taken down. Natsuki steals herself and decides to hold off the beast with her 50 blades until she can. Itsuyo takes him to the gym room to complete her mission based on the Val X love system. She immediately pounces on top of him for their lovey-dovey intimate moment. Poor boy Takuma is struck terrified, but he has to comply. She tells Takuma to squish those water balls. Takuma is unable to refuse and reaches for her body. Itsuyo feels uneasy and suddenly bitch slaps him across his face. Meanwhile, Natsuki is facing difficulty holding on. She doesn't know what is taking Itsuyo so long to level up. In the end, Natsuki is unable to defeat the creature and gets detained instead. Takuma holds his gloomy face in the aftermath of getting slapped. Itsuyo apologizes even though she channeled her inner Will Smith on him. Itsuyo tries to muster the courage to continue the mission, but she finds herself weeping. Takuma realizes that Itsuyo is a fake bitch who only tries to act tough on the outside. He remembers his mother patting him on the head in such situations. Being the mama's boy that he is, Takuma pats her on the head, something that would never work in real life. A terrified Takuma struggles to explain why he did what he did. Itsuyo feels comforted by his big bony hands, which reminds her of her daddy. The Val X love mission is completed as a result. Itsuyo follows up by giving Takuma a peck on the cheek. Returning to Natsuki, who is currently being molested by the monster. Finally, Itsuyo arrives and frees her sister. Itsuyo dons a new outfit as a result of her powered-up state. She binds the Akuma with her powers, commanding Natsuki to finish the job. Natsuki uses this opportunity to pull Sukuna's fire arrow. Their conjoined attack successfully subjugates the monster. After the battle, the students find their beloved student council president. Itsuyo informs that she was lost during the incident. Her assistant accuses Takuma of being the cause of the trouble as he's a walking red flag. Takuma notices Natsuki's sad expression. Natsuki is glad that he is slowly recovering from his fear of humans by bonding with the Valkyries. In the midst of their conversation, Inukai, a worker of the wicked gods, is secretly watching their every move. He thinks Takuma is a trash virgin who can't even do his job right for the Valkyries. Inukai is revealed to be a level 65 demon who poses a threat to their plans. Matsumi finishes up another successful shoot, impressing the directors with her mighty plots. In the shower, Matsumi is saddened that Natsuki and Itsuyo were able to enjoy Takuma to themselves. She feels jealous they got on a date while she couldn't. The scene switches to Futaba and the other Valkyries. Futaba states that the Akuma arrived sooner than they anticipated. She also believes that there is a servant of the malevolent gods hiding as a human vessel. Futaba knows that only 3 of the 9 Valkyries are of use at present. In an effort to combat such a dire situation, Futaba initiates Project Idol dating. In the next scene, Matsumi shares a cafe gate with Takuma. She's glad that she gets to have Takuma all to herself, thanks to her sister's efforts. Since Matsumi is a celebrity, she hopes to have a normal day without the paparazzi jumping her. Suddenly, they hear Yamada talking about how he's a friend of the famous idol Matsumi. Yamada unknowingly gloats about how they've exchanged contact information. Takuma asks if they're really so close with each other. Matsumi explains that she barely remembers waving at him in the hallway. Yamada yaps about the legendary demon Takuma, who is suspected of having killed 50 people, while his parents are suspected of being part of a crime syndicate. Matsumi questions if his parents were truly like that. Takuma explained that they were just an average couple of office workers. Yamada mentions how he's a coward who is forced to jump off the window every time he's near Takuma. He turns his head and actually notices Takuma sitting right behind him. Yamada pisses himself and jumps from the window for the 14th time. The rest of the people are drawn to Takuma, but not in a good way at all. They think the freak show is responsible for tossing Yamada out the window. It gets so bad that the people want to call the police. Matsumi feels terrible seeing Takuma discriminated against in such a way. While she's glad that the attention isn't placed on him as an idol, Matsumi thinks of a way to salvage the situation. She takes Takuma to the library, where the nerd is at peace with himself. Takuma wanted to come here because he wanted to prepare for the exams since he failed miserably. Sensing that he took the initiative for his own actions, Matsumi praised him and even stated that she admired him. Matsumi explains her backstory, how she and Itsuyo were both saved by Natsuki at a young age when they were attacked by a dangerous Akuma. Ever since that incident, Matsumi has failed to function as her own person and only follows the lead of her sisters. Matsumi reveals that becoming an idol also wasn't her own decision. Takuma counters that he could never take on a job where he would have to deal with so many people. Itsuyo shares his thoughts but only takes on the job for her family's sake. Her words remind Takuma of his sad past. Takuma buys the guidebook and walks away. Matsumi, on the other hand, is out here simping for the guy who looks like a walking sleep paralysis demon. Meanwhile, Takuma wants to go home because being around people has made him nauseous. Matsumi advises him to take a break from studying. While they're busy in their conversation, everyone's favorite stalker, Inukai, is pitying Matsumi for dating such a pathetic lover. Inukai intently stares at Matsumi's body and believes that she will be a wonderful snack for him. He also wants to prevent the Valkyries from leveling up and causing trouble. Inukai releases a low-level Akuma who specializes in gossip because apparently those exist in this world. The Akuma announces the existence of the idol Matsumi, dragging the attention of the people around them. Takuma is worried like shit because he doesn't want to be swarmed with people. He tries to meet himself right out of the mall, but suddenly remembers the pink-haired waifu's words about protecting her family. Takuma grabs Matsumi's hand and races the fuck-ass out of there. Matsumi thinks that this is elite riz as it would make their day interesting. Pink bitch finds herself exhausted, while Takuma is deathly worried. They try to escape through the rear exit, except it's nothing more than a dead end. Matsumi's OnLife's subscribers are foaming to catch her, but thankfully, she's hidden in a locker with Takuma. Matsumi's having the time of her life with her titties against Takuma. Matsumi is out here having R-rated fantasies of our boy groping her. However, the innocent Takuma only wants to be free from their current situation. Matsumi tells him that she can activate her flight ability upon completing a Valkyrie mission. She demands Takuma to kiss her on the lips. While Matsumi is glad that she is finally going to have her first kiss, the two of them are quick to realize that they're limited by a massive height difference. Takuma is unable to bend down in the confined space, so the shawty has to take a different approach. Matsumi asks Takumi to unbutton his shirt while she's having lewd thoughts. She also explains that the level-up criteria depend on where the Valkyrie is kissing. Basically, the kiss takes 3 minutes on the chest to meet level-up requirements. Matsumi's lips grace his chest, but the Sigma male is far too busy crunching out square root numbers in his head to ignore the waifu. Matsumi thinks that Takuma has fallen for her and continues to kiss him for the rest of the duration. Finally, the Val X Love mission receives status completion, and they float out of the place like some genie magic. Outside, Takuma's shocked that he's floating in the air because the last time he remembers, humans couldn't fly. The pink fairy that hovers around him is responsible for keeping them afloat. Matsumi apologizes for traumatizing Takuma despite her best efforts for a memorable date. Suddenly, she sees Takuma enjoying the beautiful sunlight, like his dumbass just forgot he's literally floating in the air. Matsumi suddenly senses that her abilities are reaching her limit. She runs out of power, and the two of them basically fall to their doom. In the aftermath of the date, Ichika reports her annoyance to Futaba for secretly protecting the weakling, who is supposed to be the lover of the Valkyries. She's a Twitter hater who genuinely despises Takuma to the point she refrains from entering the dating missions. Futaba tells her elder sister to help them out at the festival since it is important. Ichika agrees to come and alerts them of an imposter lurking within like they're playing Among Us or some crap. Unbeknownst to them, this imposter happens to be Inukai, who is plotting his next move at Burger King because you can't miss a Whopper while planning to destroy the whole world. Inukai is prepared to slaughter some of the Valkyries at the festival, and he is also aware of their secret bodyguard. Futaba asks Natsuki about Takuma's whereabouts. Natsuki informs her that Takuma is busy retaking the national entrance exam because of his failure. Misa and the rest of the Valkyries believe that they should celebrate the occasion with a feast. The man of the hour, Takuma, returns, but this time he's not a giant, but rather a tiny minion. The blind Valkyrie, aka Futaba, asks what happened. A shrunk little guy explains that the examination hall was so crowded he couldn't focus on the test without being distracted. Basically, the nerd not only failed the exam, but also shrunk into a husk of his original self. Misa recommends they play tag. Takuma isn't pleased with the idea of the game because he wants to study. However, Karure calls him a pervert because that's what you do when someone refuses to play a game with you. Takuma is worried that they'll bother him even more if he turns down the offer, so he reluctantly joins. They draw a lot, and Futaba happens to be the one chasing. Futaba places the condition that the Valkyries will lose when their panties are stolen from them. This insane condition shocks Takuma, but the rest of them agree to play the game. Futaba gives them a 3-minute duration to fix their spots. Takuma casually walks around, regretting his life's choices. He wonders if he should find a good spot to hide and study. Instead, the man walked into the girls' changing room, where Itsuyo's glorious body gave him a nice view. Itsuyo scolded him for lacking basic manners and refusing to knock. Misa apologizes for what he saw and explains that her powers are activated through her threads. These threads are capable of detecting Futaba's movement. Takuma doesn't know why Misa is putting so much effort. Misa explains that Futaba is actually the disciple of the god of thunder Thor, making her a formidable opponent for snatching panties. The panty-snatching queen is an expert at what she does. Misa tells him to formulate an attack with Itsuyo while she tries to restrain Futaba. Takuma and Itsuyo calmly sit next to each other. Takuma is losing his marbles because he thinks the emo chick has a grudge against him. Contrary to his expectations, Itsuyo is a level 10 simp who has a kink for being patted on the head. Takuma pats her, nearly making this girl excited. Itsuyo whines and begs him to pat her more in the future. A prepared Misa anticipates Futaba's arrival. Futaba literally smashes her way into a wall. Takuma finds himself in a comfortable spot with two delicious baddies. The four-eyed is ready to steal her panties. Takuma still doesn't understand their fascination with panties. Futaba explains that panties are the last line of defense, and so having one's panties stolen is equivalent to death. Misa saves Takuma from the murderess by tossing him into the heavens where he probably discovered God. In a 2-on-1 battle, Futaba stands unafraid, reminding her dear sisters of Ichika's words. Futaba, the panty-stealing goddess, demands that they surrender at once. As for Takuma, he landed straight into the cups of Yakumo, a younger Valkyrie who tells him to K-word himself for stooping down to this level. Takuma incinerates as his dignity is shattered to pieces. Natsuki finds a pale Takuma, not knowing the verbal assassination this man suffered. Natsuki suggests they form a strategy since Futaba possesses an ability called Castle. At her level 1 state, she can only cast a singular wall, but it's still strong enough to give them trouble. Their yapping doesn't help because the panty stealer in question arrives to take the blood of her next victims. Natsuki prepares her battle while Yakumo strengthens her sister's powers with her weapon. Futaba is entertained and wonders if Natsuki's blade will pierce her shield. A devastated Takuma tries to escape from the scene until he finds another Valkyrie. Shino advises him with her father's words never to flee from battle. She's actually a cursed Valkyrie who is forced to stay in an isolated location and maintain her sister's shields. Futaba defeats Natsuki and secures her panties in her grasp. Her final victim remains to be Takuma, as she is fishing for his underwear. Takuma loses his mind, not knowing what is about to happen. Suddenly, Futaba surprises him with a charm of good luck. It is revealed that the rest of the Valkyrie sisters plan this event to help Takuma escape from his constant studying. Natsuki and the other sisters thank him for taking care of them. Takuma is so stunned by this April Fool's prank that his soul literally evaporates into the sky. That night, Takuma reflects that he still doesn't like people, but he is glad that he got a present from someone. The Valkyries are excited because of the upcoming festival, giving them the perfect opportunity to raise their power levels. Misa brings out the obvious concern that there is something suspicious beyond their sight. Misa inquires if Itsuyo knows any suspicious people. Itsuyo thinks of the student council and can't place a finger on any of them being evil, and her dumb couldn't be more wrong. Natsuki seems very excited about going on a date at the campus festival. She thinks that Takumi doesn't share her excitement. Takumi explains that he is also excited, but that's only because the nerd wants to fondle his books and study during the extra time. The following day at school, Natsuki keeps a sharp eye on Takuma, who is studying like he usually does. She wonders if this wimpy nerd secretly hates her since she's given him the worst treatment so far. Natsuki wants to get ahead of her sisters by showing her cute side more often. Unfortunately, her cute side is far too cute for someone basic like Yamada, who jumps out of the window yet again. Later, Natsuki ends up replacing the maid girl since the original volunteer is absent. She thinks her being flat-chested certainly doesn't help. Inukai wins up as a member of the council. While he compliments her on the outside with his marshmallow charm, the demon couldn't be more ready to tear apart her flesh if he could. Inukai wants to test Natsuki's presentation as a maid through Takuma. Natsuki brings her A-game to the show and swoons the crowd by calling him master. Takuma is unfazed because he wasn't even looking at the chick. Natsuki thinks he's playing hard to get and treats him to a vanilla parfait. Natsuki ends up ruining the whipped cream and pouring it all over her, making it seem like a totally different genre of anime for a good moment. Inukai uses this opportunity to activate his magic stone, forming a dozen Akuma. Natsuki is shocked that Akuma could come to such a location so suddenly. She is now convinced that there is a servant of the malevolent gods working against the Valkyries. Natsuki is overwhelmed and begs for Takuma's help. Takuma actually turns up and throws hands like he's never done before, smoking all of the demons to the ground. Hey! Inukai observes this interaction carefully and realizes that the Valkyries are actually trash in their human states. Returning home, Natsuki apologizes for Takuma's worries. Takuma only seems to be concerned about studying, which puts her off. Takuma ends up calling her cute with his W raise and secures the maiden's heart. A flustered Natsuki runs off because she melted at the compliment. Takuma scares the living shit out of everyone at the festival. Takuma's best efforts to put on a smiling face only make him seem like a murderer. They don't know that he's the one pussying out because of the number of people in the festival. Natsuki greets him with a kind face and books him a table. Takuma doesn't know what's wrong with the blonde bitch since she's being overly nice to him. Natsuki gets them a drink to share. Takuma is in no mood to share or to submit. She makes a new pet out of Takumi by ordering him to suck her hand. Takuma does a fairly average job but manages to make Natsuki's jealous ass even more jealous. Takuma wonders if Takuma prefers something more appetizing to taste as she extends her legs. Takuma is stunned while Natsuki knocks her sister down a peg for not being mindful of the environment they're in. In the next scene, Futaba asks if Takuma would welcome the opportunity to dance with Natsuki at the dance party. Takuma fumbles with his F-tier communication skills because he's afraid other people are targeting him because of Natsuki. Rejected, Natsuki runs off like there's no tomorrow. Futaba and the other Valkyries think that Takuma fucked up beyond expectations. Futaba goes on to console Natsuki, knowing that her feelings got hurt. Natsuki is concerned about the security of the festival. Futaba explains that Ichika is actually looking for any suspicious figures. Since the campus festival is the perfect opportunity for the Valkyries to level up, it's also the perfect hunting ground for their enemy to strike at them. The scene switches to Misa, Kururi, and Takuma. Takuma and Kururi are scared shitless inside the horror house, so Misa becomes the man of the party. She calls Takuma a wimp for constantly apologizing and blowing the situation with Natsuki. Unbeknownst to them, beta male and window-jumping expert Yamada is here to ruin their day. He drops a live eel right into Misa's chest. The eel explores every inch of her body, giving her the ick. Misa begs Takuma to take control of her body as long as he can get rid of the eel. In doing so, Takuma plays with the Misasi and manages to catch the eel. He runs off, scaring Yamada to the point he falls from the window again. Outside, Takuma doesn't know what he is doing since his primary focus is to study during the festival. There he meets Inukai, who suspiciously pops up when there is no one around to protect Takuma. Natsuki and Itsuyo are in a hurry to find Takuma, even though Ichika is on the lookout to ward off any threats. Suddenly, they're stopped by a bunch of students. Inukai brings out his monstrous sigh and explains that he had been meaning to devour Takuma, but even Batman couldn't make me say such gay shit. The entire festival is invaded by humans like Akuma, who possesses the entire academy. Inukai expresses his desire to steal the Valkyrie's powers by eliminating the main source. Inukai pulls a Kakashi and Chidori's Takuma's chest, rendering him a massive injury. Since the barrier is deployed, it keeps the Valkyries from entering inside and saving Takuma. Misa concocts a strategy instructing Natsuki to defeat the Akuma outside while they deal with a plan to get inside. While Matsubi and Itsuyo are intimidated to fight against an Akuma of such massive size, Misa reminds them that they do not intend to defeat this opponent. With Kururi and Nakumo acting as support, the Valkyries initiate an all-out attack to defeat the monster. Natsuki is busy dealing with the human Akuma. She is assisted by Ichika, who has already been informed by Misa about the situation with the weakling. Ichika roasts Takuma even now for becoming a hostage and giving them trouble. While this is going on, Inukai is feasting on those burgers. He's confident of his victory and even offers Takuma some food. Takuma is literally out of it, thanks to the gaping hole in his chest. He fails to answer, so Inukai bashes his thick skull. Inukai tells him that he will enjoy the show until all of the Valkyries are crushed. His words ring true as Misa begins to feel overwhelmed. Matsumi and Itsuya are restrained by the Akuma ass hanging and tits flopping on the ground. Ichika explains that Takuma is still alive because of the state of the barrier. She knows that the enemy has yet to kill him fully. Ichika knows that everything rests on his shoulders. Natsuki is actually confident in Takuma and thinks that he'll succeed since their lover in question faints from the exhaustion and the bleeding. Takuma thinks he's down for good, but then he remembers his 9 waifus, which he has yet to pipe down. Takuma sees the charm of good luck and remembers his conversation with Natsuki. Natsuki reminded him that he was capable of saving others since he saved her many times. Remembering her words, Takuma stands up like the Sigma he is. He's about to throw a Mike Tyson knockout punch, but unfortunately, Inukai notices him and pins him to the wall. Takuma states that while he suffers from a phobia of humans, he doesn't mind spending his days around the Valkyries. Inukai gets fed up with his lovey-dovey bullshit and straight up slaps the living daylights out of him. Inukai tells him to die since he's already destined to be dead. Futaba pops up from behind and basically says, "I'm gonna touch you with these hands." Futaba explains that Ichika went around marking everyone she passed. In fact, Inukai had also been marked with a thread, allowing them to find his location. With Takuma barely hanging on, Futaba tries to be diplomatic and asks for an explanation. Inukai goes all whiny and tries to deceive Futaba. Futaba nearly one-shots him, reminding the fuckus that she sees past his deception. Inukai intends to devour Futaba, while the four-eyed disciple of Thor for the first time is ready to take someone's life instead of their undies. Inukai holds Takuma hostage, vowing to behead him if Futaba attacked. Futaba pulls an Agopido flying fuck about his ability and casts a wall in between the two. Using this opportunity, Futaba attacks Inukai and tells Takuma to escape. Her mission is to ensure Takuma makes out to the other Valkyries. However, Inukai reminds him that they have yet to win this battle. Takuma's stomach literally begins splitting on itself as Inukai implants a parasite in his body. The parasite rips into his flesh before giving Takuma the Gojo treatment. Takuma channels his inner guts and refuses to die at all costs. With his unbridled rage, Takuma activates a unique regenerative ability, defying death and restoring his body. Inukai is shocked that he's able to access Mistlestein. Takuma escapes while Futaba pounds Inukai for underestimating Takuma's might. Inukai refuses to accept Takuma as anything more than a pathetic weakling, whom even a goldfish could beat. However, at this current moment, Takuma is shredding through the horde of Akuma that stand before him. Inukai doesn't comprehend what motivates Takuma beyond his fear, since he has already died once and refuses to stop. Takuma remembers sharing a conversation with his mother where he nately prioritized studying instead of making friends. Takuma wanted to secure a good job so that he could become a respectable person and finally earn friends. Remembering Natsuki and his mother's words, Takuma musters a courage and refuses to be stopped by the Akuma. Ichika saves him and notices a change in Takuma. Takuma has gained a bit of her respect from before. Ichika decides to wrap up the Akuma lingering around the area. Takuma finally reunites with Natsuki, who bashes his face for goofing around. Natsuki tells him that they got no time to waste since the other Valkyries are fighting for their lives. Inukai is confident of his victory despite his several fuck-ups during the mission. That's because he has a level 1000 Akuma who is stronger than all of them. Futaba reminds him that there may be unexpected developments that will shock his jump-loving ass. With a room to themselves, Natsuki and Takuma prepare to complete the Val X Love mission. The mission demands a kiss without an inch of clothing. However, since they're both in a filthy state, Natsuki states that they should clean up first. She cleans Takumi's body and fights her embarrassment, knowing they have no time to spare. With Takuma cleaned up, it is now Natsuki's turn. She tells him not to pull any pranks. Meanwhile, Misa frees Itsuyo and suddenly gets attacked since Itsuyo is infected by the Akuma. Returning to the main couple, Takuma and Natsuki feel each other's breaths and finally engage in a loving kiss. They decide to use tongue to heighten the experience of their love. While Takuma is bricked, he finds Natsuki's body to be cold. He knows that she has been fighting her hardest in the rain. Takuma feels frustrated and in that moment awakens a bit of his powers. Takuma and Natsuki take their precious time with the kiss. Misa and the other Valkyries are about to meet their doom when suddenly Natsuki appears. Natsuki channels her inner Escanor and burns brighter than the sun. With her awakened powers, she attacks the Akuma, but still finds herself overwhelmed. The Akuma she's facing devours everything without exception. Forced to use her full power, Natsuki taps into the spirit of her weapon. On the other hand, Futaba gives Inukai the hardest punches that he has probably ever eaten in his entire life. Futaba reveals that the malevolent gods are scheming to gather Aether for the war that is to come in the future. Inukai is shocked she knows of their plans. Futaba is caught off guard by arrows and manages to let Inukai escape. She doesn't mind since this mission has made Takuma much stronger, which also increased the Valkyries' potential. As Takuma grows stronger, he will become more desirable for the Valkyries, who in turn will level up in their abilities. The result of their love is Natsuki, who unleashes her divine blade and slices the monster in half. After the battle, it is revealed that Inukai was actually saved by another servant serving the malevolent gods. The boy reminds Inukai's stubborn dumbass that he failed in his mission no matter how he looks at it. They now also have to deal with Takuma's abilities on top of their worries for the Valkyries. After the incident, the winner of the beauty pageant is actually declared to be Matsumi the idol. Matsumi arrives to dance with Takuma as her winning prize. Takuma is confused because he agrees to dance with Natsuki instead. Matsumi realizes that Takuma doesn't know about the specifics of their bet. In a flashback, it is actually revealed that the three girls placed a bet against each other. The winner was to enjoy Takuma herself at the dance party. They were all expecting Natsuki to win, but it ended up being Matsumi instead. At the actual dance party, Matsumi allows Natsuki to take the prize from her instead. Later, Natsuki scolds Takuma for turning her down at first and then considering dancing with her. Takuma tries to come up with an excuse. Natsuki is a textbook tsundere with cuteness dialed to 100. She can't even turn to face him after their unspeakable acts against each other. Natsuki is secretly afraid that she'll get ditched by Takuma. Takuma surprises her by thanking Natsuki for her help. This is because she helped cure Takuma's phobia of people to a considerable extent. Natsuki lets out a sigh, knowing that he is so dense that he still doesn't understand the purpose of their dance. Natsuki grabs his shirt and ends up kissing Takuma. In typical tsundere fashion, she tells him that she only did it to level up. Takuma is surprised because he fails to see a nearby Akuma. Natsuki lets out a heartwarming invitation to Takuma, hoping for him to join the Valkyries and support him with his strength. Takuma takes the maiden's hand and shares a wonderful night with the rest of the Valkyries. A restless Takumi stumbles into the girls' room at night. Misa and the other Valkyries are loafing around while Kururi reveals her newest gadget, the automatic doctor suit. Futaba reveals that she requested Kururi to make the gadget since she wants the Valkyries to keep their bodies up to shape after each battle. Misa catches onto her drift and quickly realizes that Futaba's plan is to use Takuma and force him into playing doctor to examine their bodies. Futaba confirms this, but the rest of the Valkyries are unwelcoming of the perverted idea. Strangely enough, this time it's Takuma who is pumped to succeed in this mission and volunteers for the cause. Takuma dons his doctor gear and hopes to make up for his 9 wives after causing them so much trouble in the festival. Futaba is the first one to be examined. Takuma analyzes Futaba's body and proceeds to request a stethoscope exam. Futaba takes off her shirt with glee, revealing her milky bedonkers. Takuma is bold enough to use the stethoscope on her pink canyons of milk, a bold move in Futaba's eyes. Next up is Mrs. Examination. She is instantly rebellious and doesn't want to cooperate with the creepy doctor. The creepy doctor in question pulls down her pants, forcing her to stay. Takuma oils up her body, and I mean that literally. Green-haired mommy receives the full-on oil treatment as Takuma finishes up her examination. The next Valkyrie on his examination list is actually the beloved Itsuyo. Itsuyo is expecting a lot, but he doesn't see much of anything in her. Takuma simply tells her to go and take a urine test in the corner of the room. Itsuyo was utterly shaken but complied with his request. She releases her unicorn liquid quietly and brings it to Takuma. Creepy Dr. Takuma scares her away. Matsubi enters the room and she's conscious of her breath. Takumi conducts a dental exam while making her foam in her mouth. Matsumi is harassed but actually feels grateful for it before running away. The next one on the list is Natsuki, who immediately smokes the unprofessional doctor for requesting a bust measurement. Takuma allows her the freedom to wear her underwear. Natsuki follows up on his request and reminds him not to look at the numbers. Takuma actually finds Natsuki's underwear to be adorable, a compliment that surprises her. After Natsuki, the girl with headphones, Yakumo, enters the examination room. Takuma is terrified of his previous fuck-ups. Yakumo loves taking the initiative and actually harasses the creepy doctor instead. She tastefully nibbles on his ear, this time scaring the creepy doctor away. Finally, Kururi comes to inform Takuma of his progress since he has failed every single checkup thus far. Takuma feels dejected. Kururi activates a super examination mode, which is a really fancy way of calling him a Super Saiyan. Takuma feels all-powerful with his newfound strength and feels on top of the world. That is, until he burns out the system in seconds. Kururi warns him of the explosion that is to follow because of overheating. Takuma screams in worry. He doesn't want Kururi to be caught in the blast. Matsumi, Itsuyo, and Natsuki are discussing their horrid experiences when suddenly they see Takuma yeeting himself before exploding. The doctor becomes the patient instead, looking like a mummy from the tomb of an Egyptian pharaoh. The Valkyries scold him and believe that it is only fair they got his shit tossed for the terrible examinations. That night, Misa is bothered by Itsuyo since she has constantly failed at pursuing Takuma. Misa advises Itsuyo to avoid being forceful around their scaredy cat of a lover. Misa is suddenly tasked by Itsuyo to teach her how to date, even though she has absolutely no experience in romance. In fact, Misa's only memories of Asgard are living through the traumatizing training sessions supervised by Futaba and Ichika. Misa boldly rejects Itsuyo and recommends she ask someone else for advice. However, Itsuyo genuinely feels pathetic for being a letdown to the Valkyries so far. She wants to be of use and doesn't want to become a bother to Misa and the others. Misa is forced to comply with her younger sister's demands and decides to give her a coaching session. The following day, Misa takes Takuma to her room with the excuse of folding laundry. There happens to be a mountain of clothes. The reason is simple. The Valek's love system has tasked her to spend an hour with Takuma in the same room without informing him. The mission serves as the perfect demonstration for Itsuyo, who is secretly taking notes outside like a nerd. Takuma realizes that he's going to be folded before he gets to fold all of this laundry. Misa thinks that he's still the stupid, wimpy idiot that he was before the festival. Mrs. Thread breaks and she is forced to look for another box. While she is rummaging through her closet, Takuma gets to peep her pink panties with a really good angle. Misa accidentally drops the heavy box on his head, nearly knocking his ass out. Misa apologizes for her blunder and presses her cushions against his body. Takuma is literally losing his mind and wants to flee from the situation. Misa forces him to stay since she still wants to complete the mission. Takuma boldly reveals what he's seen. He is fully expecting to get decked in the face, but Misa doesn't react harshly. Instead, he feels insanely flustered. The flirtatious dating queen has found herself flustered instead. She's so worried about Takuma ogling her body. One thing falls to another, and sexy Misa finds herself on top of our boy. Takuma practically kisses her milkers while Isuyo holds Kururi and Yakumo from entering inside. After the incident, Takuma reveals that he has actually finished folding the laundry. Misa is struck surprised because not only has he done it with immense speed, but he also folded each article nicely. Takuma sulks in explaining how he lost his mother nicely and was forced to do things by himself. Misa realizes that Takuma has been looking after a giant house all by himself since nobody was there to help him. Misa rewards Takuma with a charm and hopes to seek his support in future battles. The narrowly successful dating mission is finally brought to an end when Itsuyo becomes a fan of Misa. Misa herself is completely exhausted. The Valkyries receive mail from their father, Odin, informing them of the next Takuma attack, even though his predictions have never been right throughout the entire series. Futaba explains that she wanted Natsuki to fight for them like always, but there is a small problem. She tells Natsuki to transform at once. Following her sister's command, Natsuki comes over to Takuma for a kiss. She connects her lips with his many times but fails to transform. Natsuki surprises herself and is desperate enough to tongue it out. However, even that doesn't work as she makes the rest of her sisters flustered. Itsuyo and Matsumi are incredibly jealous that she got to share the sloppiest kiss with Takuma. Futaba then reveals the manual she used Kururi to make, displaying each of the Valkyries' power levels and their abilities. Aside from their stats, the most important thing is Valkyrie's AP, which is determined by the action taken during battle. Since Natsuki expelled so much energy during the fight in a festival, her body is drained of AP and will take some time to recover. Since they don't have a decent attacker going for them, Futaba tasks the midget Yakumo as well as big titty bitch Matsumi for the job. The following day, Takuma shares a date with Yakumo, barely able to keep his composure. He is parched and asks Yakumo for a sip of her tea. Yakumo uses her 1000 IQ brain and quickly determines that this man is trying to steal an indirect kiss from her. She tells him to go off himself for being a pervert. Previously, Takuma tried to ask Natsuki for her consultation regarding Yakumo. Natsuki revealed that Yakumo suffers from a special condition where she is overwhelmed by sound. She thinks that it's Takuma's loudly beating heart that causes her such irritation. Even though Budget Toji received the advice here, he can't follow it. Takuma's heart pounds crazily, annoying the blue-haired midget. To make matters worse, Yamada startles him from behind. Takuma forgets to hold hands and fails their Val X Love mission. An annoyed Yakumo orders him to stop his irritating heart. She voices her confusion as to why her father chose a wimpy punk and a loser for the job. At this point, Takuma wishes he was dead as he faces the worst of Yakumo's verbal abuse. Takuma tries to salvage the conversation by revealing his abilities from the festival, but inevitably fumbles that too. In the next scene, Matsumi is simping for Takuma as she also wants a taste of our boy. Yakumo and Takuma's sudden arrival startle Matsumi. Yakumo tells Matsumi to make preparations for their next mission, which demands a 30-minute photo shoot with the idol. Matsumi feels lewd in her swimsuit, while Takuma is pumped to make up for his previous failures. The determined idiot snaps her photos as she poses in various ways. Yakumo joins Matsumi and tells her to make it more interesting. Yakumo returns with an ice cream treat. The lolly sucks the lolly and tells Matsumi to join along. Matsumi busies her mouth as the two goddesses give Takuma the best show of his life. Outside, Akuma attacks the unlucky Yamada. Futaba and Ichika are there to save him. Futaba wonders if they can hold on until the other three arrive to finish the job. Matsumi sees the monster assault and thinks it is unfair because of their date. Matsumi and Yakumo speed up the lovemaking by manipulating Takuma's body. Yakumo even gets her first kiss. Finally, an evolved Matsumi and Yakumo pair arrives on the scene with Takuma. Their strategy is to drain the monster of its AP. They manage to dodge the Akuma's attack thanks to Matsumi's flotation ability. Takuma remembers that this strategy involves draining the monster's AP since both goddesses and monsters decrease their AP in each attack. Matsumi is about to get her shit lunch when Yakumo intervenes at the last moment, preventing her from being shish kebabbed. The rest of the Valkyries outside are not worried, while Natsuki hopes for their victory. Takuma checks the monster's stats, disappointed that its AP has barely gone down at all. They're attacked from underground. Yakumo strengthens their defenses, while Matsumi ensures they dodge as much as possible to weaken the monster. Matsumi is confident of their victory until the Akuma is attacked by an explosive arrow. The demon pulls a kamikaze and self-destructs on their ass, leaving both of them with negligible AP. The problem is that the Akuma has yet to be defeated, and the Takuma is the only one left standing. A few days prior to this battle, Futaba advised Takuma to focus on staying alive since he had yet to discover the extent of his abilities. Since Takuma himself doesn't know how to activate his restorative abilities, he runs a massive risk of death. Futaba begged him to take care of her younger sisters as the entrusted lover of the Valkyries. Takuma has a brave face and faces the monster head-on. He dodges the slash and steals Midoriya's Texas Smash Punch. Takuma proceeds to tap into his restorative abilities, recovering some of the AP lost by the Valkyries. Yakumo and Matsumi use their powers to finally put an end to the beast. The servant of the malevolent gods realizes that Takuma has become far too strong, leaving him with only one choice, which is to summon their own goddess. After the fight, Yakumo brings tea for Takuma, but she decides not to share it when she sees that Natsuki has already bought in one. Itsuyo travels by train until she finds herself groped from behind. Itsuyo is in the mood to slaughter the unknown person until Natsuki reminds her of their mission. The Valak's love mission for Itsuyo requires her to get groped by someone so that her lover can save her. Remembering her mission, Itsuyo fully welcomes Natsuki to grope her. Meanwhile, their hero's savior is waiting at the station, exuding an ominous aura. His job is to rescue Itsuyo when she comes to the station. One big problem with his job, Takuma gets arrested because the people call the police on his ass. Natsuki takes it from the beginning and harasses Itsuyo by grabbing her plots. She fails, extremely jealous that her sister gets to have the bigger rack of the two. Natsuki's groping turns into admiration to the point she fully concentrates on Itsuyo's body. They arrive at their destination hoping for Takuma to do his part. Itsuyo is shocked by the recent announcement that a creepy person is causing trouble. Finally, the train arrives at the station. Takuma has never been more ready in his love to save a damsel in distress. Even though the crowd around him freezes Takuma into place, he still faces his fear and manages to save Itsuyo. The Valak's love mission is successful thanks to his efforts at the cost of Itsuyo's dignity. In the next scene, the boy, who is also the servant of the malevolent gods, returns to his apartment. He is attacked by Inukai, who immediately defeats him at once. Inukai begs to be served food as he has been starving for 3 days, but he doesn't receive any mercy. While they're making preparations for the arrival of their goddess, Taka suddenly notices that there aren't any sweets in his bag. This is because Princess Scold speed blitzed them and casually sits behind, munching on the delicious dumplings. Her two underlings welcome her presence. Raspa is in the mood to end Inukai because of his terrible sense of humor. Princess Scold exclaims that they have 2 missions they must complete, one of which is the destruction of the Valkyries, while the other involves acquiring the Mistelstein. The level 52 Lolly of Doom is prepared to bring victory at Ragnarok. Natsuki and Takuma share a conversation. Takuma reveals that he still struggles to call forth his ability, but Natsuki thinks it is normal since he's a regular human. Suddenly, Natsuki senses the definition of death from within the shadows. A spear of incredible might contends with her blade for 10 seconds, leaving her arms numb and unable to continue the fight. Natsuki is scared shitless and thinks they're about to die. However, the opponent is revealed to be the elder sister of the Valkyries herself. Ichika is impressed that Natsuki is able to hold her own up to this level. The imposing level 1 yet insanely strong Valkyrie joins Takuma's house as a replacement for Natsuki. Ichika voices her hatred for the weakling that Takuma happens to be. She reminds him of the many times she had to protect his bitch ass while he was making out with her sisters. Ichika is irritated that he thinks those dates were successful. Futaba finished making preparations for their bath. Ichika and Takuma step into the ring to thug it out. The Valak's love mission requires the two of them to scrub each other's bodies in a bath. Takuma has never felt immense pressure before. Ichika reminds him that she will never recognize Takuma as a man if he has any hopes of believing that. Ichika tells him to call forth his book. Takuma fails to invoke his ability. Ichika explains that his failure is a result of treating his role as more of an obligation rather than that of love. He has 9 weapons at his disposal that he can barely make use of 2 at most. Since the Valkyries strongly depend on their relationship with their lover, it makes things complicated and nerfs them beyond measure. Since Ichika and Takuma have a sour relationship with each other, Yakumo and Natsuki join the bath to offer smooth sailing. Takuma is greeted with 3 precious bare-naked bodies that he would definitely smash if Ichika wasn't around. Meanwhile, Kururi asks about Ichika's strength since she has never seen her fight before. Misa explains that Ichika is extremely strong and the same as Yakumo and Shino because she possesses immense power in exchange for a weakness. In fact, Ichika is a demigod who is capable of going head-to-head with actual gods. Yakumo's weakness is hypersensitive hearing, but in Ichika's case, it's her extremely sensitive skin. Takuma scrubs her back while she is barely able to hold herself together. While normally her body allows her extreme advantage, this is an unfavorable situation testing the demigoddess spirit. Ichika pops up from behind and scrubs her body against Takuma's skin. Ichika feels frustrated that she has to rub her body against a damn weakling like Takuma. Observing their interaction while jealous is Natsuki. Yakumo catches her peeping them and even teases her sister for liking Takuma. Takuma recommends Natsuki to confess to Takuma. The midget gets her shit tossed out of the bathtub for an inappropriate suggestion. As for Ichika, she has successfully managed to level up. Ichika immediately collapses to the ground because of her extremely low AP when she levels up, to the point she can't even move her body. At the end, another Val X Love mission is finally completed as they progress further into their relationship. The following day, Futaba and the others inform Takuma about the varying levels of the gods in Valhalla. The Valkyries aren't the only gods, and they're also not the strongest. In fact, that is the reason the Akuma monsters are fleeing to attack Midgard. Their invasion poses a threat of an all-out war between the malevolent gods and the main gods of Valhalla. Meanwhile, Princess Skuld has forgiven Inukai and plans to attack the Valkyries at once. Inukai explains that Mistelstein is troublesome to deal with as it grants Takuma the ability to revive the dead. At the same time, Princess Skuld believes that their job has become easier to acquire it than ever before. Princess Skuld is stopped by Ichika, who prepares to take them on despite the threat of getting jumped. Princess Skuld livens up at her warning and thinks that she is being underestimated. Ichika shows no signs of standing down and is in the mood to thrive-one their asses. Skuld thinks that Ichika is underestimating them, but it's actually the opposite. Ichika immediately recognizes that Inukai is the dirty germ responsible for giving her sisters so much trouble. She literally destroys him in a couple of blows at once. Ichika takes Rospa as a hostage and intimidates the living crap out of Skuld, who can't fathom how a Valkyrie can retain so much physical strength in her physical form. Even Taka, the long-range archer, is useless since Ichika will know at once if he attacks. Skuld is faced with a difficult situation. Suddenly, Ichika senses a human drawing nearby. She wonders if this is the archer that she had been warned about. It is actually revealed to be a shitty-ass Yamada, causing her an elite distraction and messing up her entire plan. With Ichika distracted, Skuld celebrates Pride Month by kissing Rospa and transforming into her own evolved form. In this form, the demigoddess is able to summon a horde of Akuma into Midgard. Itsuyo turns up to the scene with her BDSM chains, thinking that they would be enough. The bitch gets defeated in 2 seconds, as Skuld is far too powerful in her evolved state. Takuma is left undefended because Natsuki can't transform due to her low AP, while Ichika is at risk of collapsing after transformation. Skuld ridicules the Valkyries, but she senses Rospa facing an intense burden on her body. Noticing how Inukai is also out of commission, she decides to spare the Valkyries and retreats to recover their wounds in the meantime. Skuld issues them a warning of their deaths upon their next encounter. Skipping ahead the next few days, Ichika is given a chest massage by our boy who is out here living the life of his dreams. This task completes yet another Val X Love mission for them, except nothing happens. The rest of the Valkyries don't understand their case since Natsuki experienced immediate development while Ichika's stats remain unaffected. It is revealed that Ichika doesn't accept Takuma as her lover, as even the thought of that makes her cringe to death. Later, Ichika and Takuma complete another mission by going out shopping. Ichika returns with an alpha male book because the title says it will give you muscles upon reading it. The problem is the muscle brain idiot doesn't understand that it's a scam. It's especially worse because she bought the book for 100,000 yen. Being the strongest Valkyrie, she somehow manages to be the most susceptible at the same time. Anyway, Natsuki is most concerned for Takuma, who immediately escaped to his room after returning from shopping. Natsuki fears the thought of Takuma reading those hot R-rated magazines to fulfill his fantasies. The jealous train wreck is worried to the point she accidentally ingests Kururi's gadget fluid, making her insanely drunk. Takuma returns and immediately gets bear-hugged by the drunk Valkyrie. Futaba requests Takuma to put Natsuki to bed. While it is a tempting idea, Takuma fears his death at the hands of Ichika, who is ready to poke 98 holes in his body if he even attempts to harass her sister. In the next scene, Takumi takes Natsuki to her bed. The drunk girl begs to be stripped down. Takumi has to forcibly comply with her demands. Natsuki takes it one step ahead and pounces on top of Takuma. She expresses her concern thinking he has bought an adult magazine. Takuma doesn't know what this chick is talking about. Natsuki is in the mood to get piped and make him bricked up. She teases him in all sorts of ways. Despite the tempting situation, Takumi's fear of Ichika reigns supreme. He pushes Natsuki into the bookshelf. She falls and finally reclaims her sober state. Takuma also grabs the dating magazine that he bought. He tells Natsuki that he wants tips on how to better his dating life with the rest of the girls. Natsuki's fears are finally answered. She apologizes for being a probing drunk hoe. Natsuki is on the brink of confessing, but the dumbass in front of her makes everything worse because he just can't take the hint. The battle of the demigoddesses finally begins with Futaba taking charge in her evolved state. Futaba manifests her castle walls to counter the Akuma in order to waste the enemy's resources. Ichika and Takuma stay behind as backup and regroup until their time is right to strike. At home, Ichika devised a strategy that involved wearing down the enemy's number of Akuma before engaging in battle. Their main goal is to defeat and kill Raspa, isolating the Skulled Princess by herself. With Natsuki put out of commission, Ichika will be the one to lead the charge in battle, while Futaba will serve as the main distracting force. Ichika is at a crossroads thinking about Takuma since he is a coward and a weakling who has merged into a single person. Takuma arrives just at that time and showcases an interest in saving the world for once. Ichika is intrigued by his spineless motivation and tells Takuma to make preparations at once. Takuma is confused about what she means by preparations. Hot Mommy Milkers Futaba chimes in to explain that he will be having a lovey-dovey session with her for 5 minutes, the same treatment he gave to Natsuki. In the bathtub, they properly clean each other. Futaba teases him and wonders if he hates hot MILFs. Takuma obviously can't say no to that one and expresses his surprise because he always considered Futaba too strong. Futaba latches her perfect cushions against his body, commencing the mission. She passionately kisses him as much as she can. Takuma pours his soul into the kiss, hoping to power Futaba with all of his might. Futaba expresses her joy because she likes people who do things to get stronger. And that is how it led to her power up in the present battle. Futaba is throwing their hands full force without even using her shields. Princess Scold ridicules Futaba since she is supposed to be the main god, that she is incapable of casting simple abilities. MILF Futaba gets pissed and calls her an annoying little gremlin. Ichika explains that Futaba bears the lowest amount of ether in her body, making her the weakest out of all of the Valkyries. Despite her incredible magic, she can't call for the most powerful weapons and can only use her defensive abilities. Futaba suffers from terrible eyesight, so she trained under Thor to heighten her senses. In the literal sense, Futaba is not worthy of being called a main god, but when it comes to her soul, she has done everything in her power to protect her sisters. Even now, Futaba contests dozens of Akuma by herself. She admits to being weak and vows to protect her family no matter the cause. Ichika and Takuma stand on the sidelines, waiting for a chance to strike. At home, Shino is exhausting her might to maintain the barrier in their battle. Futaba gets hammered from left to right, but thanks to her efforts, there are only 4 Akuma eggs at the enemy's disposal. Suddenly, Takuma senses something strange, something beyond the likes of 4 eggs. Ichika performs a sensory check on the surrounding area and scolds him for wasting her time. Takuma still can't ward off the bad feeling. Futaba is standing on her last leg, barely clinging on in the fight. Takuma gains self-awareness for once and realizes that everything is his fault. He failed as the Valkyries' lover and didn't allow them to experience the growth they needed to overcome their obstacles. Takuma begs Ichika to join the fight, knowing that Futaba is being brutalized. Futaba perseveres and continues to defeat the Akuma as much as she can. Futaba provokes Princess Scold by insulting her lover, Raspa. Princess Scold goes batshit crazy in an all-out attack. But at that exact moment, Ichika arrives with her god's spear to disintegrate the remaining eggs. Unfortunately, she is unable to land a critical blow to Princess Scold. Not only that, Takuma finally realizes why he is sensing a secret egg. That is because Raspa has secretly hatched an Akuma egg inside her body. Takuma rushes forth and manages to protect Ichika in the final second. Raspa spells the impending doom for them as she has now gained devastating powers. Takuma makes his escape, carrying an immobilized Ichika. Takuma brings her to a safe location. Ichika assesses their situation and tells him to flee the area to return to base. Even though that is the best course of strategy, Takuma remembers the weight of the responsibility he carries. He denies Ichika and immediately gets to the good stuff, which is making love to the strongest Valkyrie. Takuma claims that he deeply dislikes Ichika, but he has to look past her behavior for the sake of his responsibility. He refuses to leave her behind no matter the cost. Ichika laughs in his face and accepts his approach. She welcomes him to seduce her and take the reins of their love. Takuma lays his hands, cherishing her body with his tongue. At first, Ichika tries to act tough, but she is quick to be seduced in the game of love. Suddenly, Raspa discovers their location and hammers down blasts to interrupt their plans. Takuma and Ichika are sent flying into a tree, and they forcefully make use of the few seconds they have. Ichika notices that Takuma is fearless despite his injuries. She remembers the time she had a discussion with her father about her preferred type. Ichika never had a favorite type of man and always wanted someone who could take care of her sisters instead. Oda became amused with his daughter's admission and realized that she just described her type in her way. At present, Ichika and Takuma share a genuine kiss, and Ichika realizes she has fallen in love with the husband of her dreams. The Valak's love mission is finally successful, granting Ichika tremendous power-ups. Ichika turns up with her almighty spear, and this time she's accompanied by an evolved Takuma, who has finally tapped into his OP protagonist's powers simultaneously. Takuma confesses that he loves all 9 of his wives and finally awakens. Ichika, the spear god, becomes the greatest defense in this battle, while Takuma acts as her support, constantly restoring her AP to the max. Princess Scold ridicules Ichika for having a false love for Takuma to the point she's not even protecting the guy who saved her ass. Ichika truly couldn't care and went balls deep in attacking the enemy instead. Natsuki arrives at the scene at last, making contact with Takuma and securing her kiss. Natsuki enters her battle state, causing a dozen problems for Princess Scold. Since Futaba is also standing to face them, her options are looking desperate. Raspa proposes they use their trump card. Princess Scold sees no other choice but to accept. The two of them pray to be granted the power of Rune. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts into a terrifying environment as the two spirits merge into a force of abomination. This nightmare demon, straight out of a horror movie, is here to destroy the Valkyries. Despite Ichika's best efforts, she is taken down. Galder proceeds to annihilate the barrier with her vaporizing beam, destroying Shino's line of defense. Natsuki and the rest of the Valkyries are barely clinging on. Takuma is the only one left standing as he opposes Galder's wrath. Galder steals Frieza's death ball and basically says, "Catch." Takuma arrives with balls of titanium, blocking the attack with his Sigma aura. He extinguishes the dark with the powers of light. This allows Ichika and Natsuki to jump Galder straight up Jujutsu Kaisen style. They pull off a 100-slash combo like they're in a video game or some crap. In the end, Galder shatters and Princess Scold and Raspa separate from each other. Ichika senses a disbalance coming from Raspa during their battle. Ichika wanted to prevent slaughtering them at first, but they caused far too much destruction. Ichika is stumped to notice Raspa's eye as the two of them run away. Takuma is in a tight situation on his own since he kept spamming his ability to the point of coughing blood. Even when it looks like they've won, the evil midget servant on the enemy team has to take the limelight. He has safely stolen the Mistelstein. Misa protected her sisters in a giant ball of unbreakable thread and got herself captured in the process. Misa experiences a gruesome death as a parasite ruptures her body from within. After their battle, Futaba and the other Valkyries are worried about Misa's health. Takuma is currently healing her with his powers, and despite healing her wound, he is unable to sense her soul. Takuma is concerned that her soul may have already passed on. His suspicion is actually correct since Misa's soul is about to be devoured by the realm of nothingness. Even death can't let her milk cannons go free for some reason. As she's about to meet her end, Takuma, her knight in shining armor, arrives and saves Misa. Takuma turns Super Saiyan and flies off. He carries her with all of his strength, remembering how his life turned from sorrow to happiness in a few months. Even though he was completely exhausted after his battle, he refused to let Misa be taken by the void. Takuma has recognized his values and hopes to become a strong man who is worthy of his respect. He has chosen to let go of his weak self. Misa feels the warmth of his body and succumbs to his love. Takuma reaches the light and hears Natsuki's voice. He finishes the journey by traversing through the light. Finally, Misa reawakens, causing her sisters, including Ichika, to cry. Later, Futaba asks Ichika for his opinion on Takuma's abilities, since he has literally brought a soul back to life. Ichika still doesn't know why their father ended up choosing a wimpy coward as their lover, but she has grown to acknowledge them. Shino, the Valkyrie who had yet to unveil herself to Takuma, meets him for the first time. Ichika mentions that Shino is the strongest Valkyrie of them all. Takuma doesn't even know where she last saw her. The next day, Takuma once again causes Yamada to jump from the window. He has mostly eradicated his phobia of humans and aspires to climb his academic grades. Suddenly, Takuma looks to the school board and discovers that he has ranked first in his grade. Takuma fulfilled his mother's dream and earned the praise of everyone else. The Valkyries acknowledge his hard work and devotion to studying. Takuma feels grateful and shares a vulnerable moment with them. When Takuma returns home to his wives, he officially confesses that he loves them all with all of his heart. Natsuki bashes him for being so upfront about it. Matsumi, Tsuyo, and Natsuki are all grateful but still hope that one day he will choose a favorite out of them all. That is how the 9 maidens of Asgard grew powerful and saved the world, sharing the love of one man. Takuma is a good-for-nothing coward who has always avoided humans throughout his entire life. He is notorious at his school for being a bloodthirsty Akuma, even though he keeps to himself as a regular human. Takuma's peaceful life is wasted when he returns home to study, and instead he finds 9 goddesses of Valhalla waiting for him. They are called Valkyries, and Odin has entrusted them to Takuma. The Valkyries grow stronger through the power of love, requiring Takuma to collaborate, even though he is afraid of humans and lacks the courage to become a worthy man. After numerous life-threatening encounters, Takuma accepts his responsibility, becoming the man of their dreams and helping the Valkyries save the world.